Rangers' transfer window in deadline day has exploded into chaos and drama. Nico Raskin, last season's standout, is being bombed out of Ibrox in disgrace and could be sold for peanuts before the deadline slams shut. Meanwhile, Celtic are trying to hijack our move for Jesseran Rak-Sakyi at the very last second. Cyriel Dessers has broken his silence after his move to Panathinaikos, and what he said will infuriate you. But it's not all doom and gloom. Rangers are closing in on a powerhouse defender in Cornelius and could yet pull off a stunning £8.5 million signing of Umar Diakite. The boardroom is under pressure, the fans are restless, and with time running out, every second matters. This is deadline day at Ibrox, and it's absolutely explosive. Right, buckle in, because this one's come right out of left field, with the transfer window about to slam shut tighter than a Celtic fan's wallet. Rangers have been linked with a sensational deadline day swoop for none other than Ivory Coast international Umar Diakite. And you'll want to sit down for this. The fee being thrown about is £8.5 million. That's not a typo. £8.5 million for a striker from League Two. You can almost hear the Reims chairman rubbing his hands from here. Now, Diakite's no mug. At just 21, he's already got 21 caps for his country and 5 goals to his name. Not bad for someone who couldn't even get a first-team sniff at Salzburg. He's since gone to Reims, bagged 9 in 61, and played regularly in League One before the French outfit were relegated. And while Reims are now stuck in the second tier of French football, they've slapped a hefty price tag on his head and even want a 15% sell-on clause on top. Greedy lot. But here's where it gets interesting. Despite already signing Bojan Miovski for £2.8 million just days ago, Rangers are apparently not done. Kevin Thelwell's reportedly deep in talks with Reims, trying to thrash out a deal that would bring Diakite to Ibrox before that 11 p.m. deadline. Crystal Palace and Eintracht Frankfurt are sniffing around too, but it looks like Rangers are leading the race. Now, Diakite's style, he's not just a penalty box predator. He's got the movement and versatility to drop into midfield areas, link play, and stretch defenses. In theory, him alongside Miovski could be a nightmare for defenders. And given how flat Rangers have looked in front of goal so far this season, 4 draws in 4 league games and not a single win, including that goalless draw with Celtic, you can see why Martin's desperate for another spark. But let's not sugarcoat it. This is a massive fee for a player coming from a relegated side in France. It reeks of gamble, high risk, high reward, and after being embarrassed in Europe by Club Brugge, 9-1 on aggregate for crying out loud, it feels like someone's panicking in the Ibrox boardroom. You don't throw £8.5 million at a League Two striker unless you're either supremely confident or absolutely desperate. Should Rangers really be splashing £8.5 million on a striker from the French second division when we've already brought in 13 players and can't win a league match? Right, here we go. Cyriel Dessers has finally broken his silence on his Ibrox exit, and you're going to want to hear this. The Nigerian striker is Athens-bound, set to complete a £3.5 million move to Panathinaikos, and he's already rolling out the charm offensive in Greece. But before he even kicked a ball in green and white, Dessers dropped a wee nugget that'll raise an eyebrow, maybe 2 among you. Speaking to the Greek press, he openly admitted that his head was turned when Rangers faced Panathinaikos earlier this season, that's right. While you were watching Rangers battle through against them in the Champions League qualifiers, Dessers was apparently admiring the opposition from the bench. And now he's swapping Ibrox for Athens like it's some kind of upgrade. Now, let's set the record straight. Dessers' numbers at Rangers weren't too shabby. 52 goals from 82 starts is a decent return by any measure, and on paper he delivered. But let's not pretend it was always smooth sailing. There were stretches where he couldn't hit a barn door from 5 yards, and the crowd weren't shy in letting him know about it. Still, you can't ignore what he brought. Goals, experience, a big presence up top, and just when it looked like he might kick on under Russell Martin, he's out the door. The timing's telling, with Miovski arriving and talk of an £8.5 million bid for Diakite. It feels like Dessers was pushed out the back to make room at the front, but what sticks in the throat isn't that he's leaving. It's this wee love letter he's written to Panathinaikos, praising their attacking play, talking about their history, saying he hopes the fans remember that goal he scored against them in the Europa League. You'd think he was talking about his boyhood club and not a side we put out. Look, he's doing what footballers do, trying to win over the new crowd. Fair enough, but there's something a bit off about a player waxing lyrical about the atmosphere at Panathinaikos when you've just walked away from Ibrox. You've played in front of the most passionate, loyal, thunderous support in the world, and you're impressed by a few flares in Athens. Does Dessers' praise for Panathinaikos after leaving Ibrox make you feel like he was never truly committed to Rangers in the first place? It's all happening at Ibrox this deadline day, and here's one that might have flown a wee bit under the radar with all the noise about strikers, but it could turn out to be one of the most important signings of the lot. Rangers are on the verge of completing a loan move for Canadian international Derek Cornelius from Marseille, and there's been a rather tasty twist in the deal. Turns out this isn't just a bog standard loan. If he impresses, there's an option to make it permanent, and the contract's already agreed through to 2029. That's right, a 4-year commitment on the table if he proves himself. That's a strong statement of intent from Kevin Thelwell. Cornelius is 27, left-footed, and brings experience from League One and the international stage, 35 caps for Canada and 25 appearances with Marseille. He's exactly the kind of composed, mature head that this Rangers defense has been crying out for. Let's be honest, the backline's been a shambles at times. Nasa Jiga, not up to scratch. Clinton Insiala looks likely to leave despite being the only natural left-sided option. It's been Sutar carrying the load and he's needed help. Now, with Cornelius coming in, Sutar can shift to his preferred right side, and the Canadian can slot in on the left, offering balance and some proper leadership. Not just that, Cornelius can even cover at left back if needed. That flexibility combined with experience could make him one of the smartest pickups of the window. And here's where it gets really interesting. You've got big money moves happening elsewhere, Miovski in, possibly Diakite on the way, but this Cornelius deal shows a different kind of ambition. This isn't just about flashy signings or panic buys. This is about building a spine, planning long-term, and doing it sensibly. If Cornelius performs and Rangers trigger the contract, does that effectively slam the door shut on any of the young defenders breaking into the team this season? Right? This one stings, and not just because of who it is, but how it's all unraveled. Nico Raskin, one of Rangers' most consistent and technically gifted players in recent seasons, is now on the verge of a last-minute departure from Ibrox, and for a cut-price fee, no less. Just over £1 million brought him in from Standard Liège back in January 2023, and now it looks like he's heading out the back door, likely to England, with Crystal Palace and Wolves sniffing around. Let's not kid ourselves, Raskin's no squad filler. He's a Belgian international, over 100 appearances for Rangers, and was voted both Player of the Year and Players' Player of the Year just last season. He's been the heartbeat of the midfield, especially when others were hiding. He showed up in Europe, he showed up in the big games, and he played with that bit of bite we all love. But now he's nowhere near the squad. Absent entirely from the Celtic match, a game crying out for someone with his guile and energy, and reports suggest he's been binned from the dressing room altogether, and it's not just Russell Martin calling the shots. Word is, senior players have backed his removal over conduct behind the scenes. Something's clearly broken, and whatever's gone on, it's serious enough to shove him out the door with hours to spare in the window. The plan seems to be a loan with a mandatory buy clause, but no one's talking about 8 figures here, not even close. This is a bargain bin deal for a player we should be getting top dollar for. It reeks of damage control rather than strategy. Now, let's not ignore what this means for the squad. With Raskin gone, it's Baron and Diamanda leading the midfield engine room. Talented, yes. Proven at this level, not yet. And in a season where the pressure's already sky high, no wins in the league, out of the Champions League, and a lifeless draw with Celtic, does it really make sense to lose your midfield general now? If Nico Raskin is really being pushed out for behind-the-scenes conduct, but was our best player last season, is Rangers making a mistake choosing discipline over quality at a time when results are all that matter? Right, this one's left a sour taste, not just because of the player involved, but because of who might be nicking him from under our nose. Jesseran Rak-Sakyi, the highly rated Crystal Palace winger who's been on Rangers' radar for weeks, now looks more likely to end up at Celtic. You heard that right. After all the groundwork, all the interest, all the chatter about bolstering the attack, our biggest rivals have suddenly emerged as serious late players and are apparently leading the race to land him before the window slams shut. Now, Rak-Sakyi is no passenger. 7 goals and 2 assists in the championship last season. Bags of pace, direct running, and that fearless spark out wide. The kind of flair we've been crying out for. With the lack of cutting edge we've seen so far under Russell Martin, just 4 goals in 4 Premiership games and none at all in the Old Firm draw. The need for genuine firepower on the wings is obvious. We started that Celtic match with Mikey Moore and JD Gassama on either flank, both promising, both raw, but neither made the difference. Oliver Antman's been hit and miss, and there's no real depth in that position. Rak-Sakyi would have been a game changer, the kind of player who gives defenders nightmares, the kind of player who could decide an Old Firm clash. And now there's a real danger he'll be doing it for them. There's no sugarcoating it. This would be a bitter blow. Losing a key target is one thing. Losing him to Celtic, that's a whole different level. It suggests either we weren't convincing enough or Celtic just moved faster, smarter, and got the job done. And in a week where everything at Ibrox feels like it's on a knife edge, that stings. If Jesseran Rak-Sakyi ends up at Celtic because Rangers hesitated or failed to close the deal, does that prove our recruitment team still isn't ruthless enough when it matters most? Comment below what you think about the news. Don't forget to leave a like on the video to help me out. I post videos every day talking about our Rangers, so if you're not subscribed, you're missing out on the latest news. See you soon.